Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a super fascinating concept and turning it into a highly actionable blueprint for your success. Now, you've probably heard of the classic book Think and Grow Rich, right? It completely changed millions of lives by teaching people to rewire their thought patterns. But today, we're actually looking at a different yet highly complementary path. We're going to explore how to speak and grow rich. And this isn't just about making money. It's about unlocking massive career opportunities, building deeper relationships, and creating immense influence simply by mastering your words. Okay, let's dive right into this. When you look at high performers, CEOs, or really any industry leaders, you kind of have to wonder what their secret is. Is it just raw intelligence? Some hidden, complex business strategy? Actually, the truth is, the gap between people who get what they want and those who don't is rarely about intelligence. It almost always comes down to how they package their ideas and how they deliver them. The catch is, most of us have just never been taught how to speak like a CEO. So to fix that, we've structured this explainer as your ultimate masterclass blueprint. We are going to cover 6 key areas: the millionaire communication mindset, mastering core frameworks, data-driven storytelling, executive presence and delivery, winning high-stakes negotiations, and finally, persuasion without manipulation. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the millionaire communication mindset. Before you even open your mouth to speak, your environment and your internal preparation have to be dialed in. Napoleon Hill famously talked about the concept of the mastermind group. Well, in the world of communication, this means you absolutely need to surround yourself with great communicators. If you actively absorb the habits of incredible storytellers, literally just noticing how they craft their sentences and handle tough questions, your own voice and identity will naturally start to upgrade. It's like you absorb the greatness of your environment. But environment is really only half the battle. The other half is your internal intent. Before walking into any meeting, high-level communicators ask themselves 3 incredibly simple questions about their audience. What do I want them to think? What do I want them to feel? And what do I want them to do? Setting this clear intent before you start talking sharpens your focus instantly, ensuring you speak with total clarity, confidence, and immense impact. Moving right along to Section 2, master the core frameworks. Once your mindset is locked in, you need structure. The very best speakers don't just wing it, they think in structure so they never ramble when the pressure is on. And one of the most powerful structures you can use is the STAR framework: situation, task, action, result. And this brilliantly illustrates how to handle a tough spot. Imagine a boss confronting an employee, let's call him Peter, who completely missed a crucial deadline for a long-form video. Without structure, Peter might panic, ramble, and just make excuses. But with STAR, Peter can control those messy thoughts. He calmly explains the situation, defines the task they were trying to achieve, outlines the exact action he took to fix the roadblock, and shares the result. It literally turns a potential disaster into a display of pure competence. Another incredible tool is the format framework. Get this, it was actually created by a kindergarten teacher. It so elegantly packages any idea by answering the audience's internal questions in the exact right order. Take the concept of financial freedom, for example. First, you answer the why. Why should they care? Well, because there's no formal education on this. Then the what, defining it as passive income exceeding expenses. Then the how, the actual mechanics of investing. And finally, now what, the exact next step they need to take today. It completely stops you from just dumping information and ensures your message truly sticks. Now, to truly elevate these frameworks, you need the right vocabulary. There is a fantastic anecdote about an immigrant working the night shift as a janitor. He'd listened to Tony Robbins' tapes just trying to lose his accent. But in doing so, he discovered something far more valuable: borrowed language. You see, elite communicators don't usually invent brilliant phrasing from scratch. When they hear someone explain a complex idea perfectly, they capture it. They translate that clarity into their own vocabulary and build this powerful internal dictionary. Do that enough, and over time, you will always have the perfect words ready for literally any situation. Let's pivot a bit. Section 3, data-driven storytelling. So, with your vocabulary and frameworks in place, it's time to bridge that massive gap between logic and emotion. This is an absolute must, especially for founders and emerging leaders. I mean, we've all sat through a data dump pitch before, right? It's just a boring list of facts and endless spreadsheets. Contrast that with the problem-solution impact arc. Investors and stakeholders are basically always asking 3 things in their heads: why should I care? Why should I believe you? And why should I join you? Data-driven storytelling turns your boring metrics into actual plot points in a narrative. Because a spreadsheet tells them what happened, but a story tells them why it actually matters. A highly effective way to pull this off is the ISL framework. Insight, story, lesson. Let's say you want to teach your team about client retention. You don't just stand there and read retention statistics. First, you give the insight. Our best clients come from our best clients. Then, the story. You describe this incredible velvet rope dinner you hosted, red carpets, steaks, a live pianist, and how skipping that event for just 1 quarter totally tanked your referral metrics. Finally, you hit them with the lesson. Invest in your best clients. Wrapping a tactical insight inside a good emotional story, that makes the lesson absolutely unforgettable.
Which brings us to Section 4, Executive Presence and Delivery.
Okay, we've covered the words, but how are you actually delivering them? I really want you to consider right now, how do you physically project leadership? This number might actually shock you. According to renowned research by Professor Albert Merbian, a staggering 93% of human communication is entirely nonverbal. Let that sink in. You will never inspire others to follow your lead through your words alone. No way. Now, what's really interesting about these numbers is the exact breakdown. 55% of your message is delivered through your body language and 38% through your vocal tone. The actual words you use, just 7%. But hey, don't mistake that 7% for being unimportant. The majority of your executive presence is physical, for sure, but your words are the sharp point of the spear. Precision in that 7% still matters immensely. And precisely because words make up such a tiny percentage, you simply cannot afford to waste them. The philosopher Blaise Pascal hit the nail on the head when he wrote, "If I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter." Wordiness obscures meaning. And this is especially true in our digital, online environments where all your nonverbal cues are restricted to a tiny webcam square. In those settings, your vocal tone and your verbal brevity become your absolute most powerful assets. Let's take this into the real world. Section 5, winning high-stakes negotiations. All right, here's where these skills directly translate to major financial outcomes. There is a very persistent myth in business that says you should never make the first offer in a negotiation, that you should just sit in a stare down and wait the other person out. But research from the Kellogg School of Management completely challenges this conventional wisdom. Their findings show that it is actually highly advantageous to open first. The reason for this is the psychological anchoring principle. The first offer basically sets a powerful, unconscious gravitational force for the rest of the entire negotiation. However, there's a big catch here. Never make an outrageous offer just to establish dominance. That creates what's called a chilling effect, where the other party just loses all motivation to even negotiate with you. Instead, you want to anchor at or near their banna. That's their best alternative to a negotiated agreement. You set the terms, but you keep it within the realm of reality. Now, in these high-stakes environments, emotions can obviously run really hot. To handle this, elite communicators rely on the ALH formula: agree, learned, helpful. Consider the massive $3.4 billion acquisition of a real estate firm by Douglas Elliman. It required rebranding 22 offices, which was hugely emotional for the sellers. So the negotiators used ALH. They said, "I agree this is an important issue. I've learned having your brand is vital to your footprint. It's helpful to know your thought process so we can build a plan together." It's brilliant. This formula de-escalates the tension and creates a much-needed sense of safety in the boardroom. And finally, Section 6, persuasion without manipulation. So with all this incredible power to influence, we absolutely have to discuss boundaries. Elite millionaire-level communication requires strong ethical boundaries and very high emotional intelligence. The crucial point here is understanding the stark difference between persuasion and manipulation. The philosopher Aristotle viewed persuasion as a noble sharing of truth. True persuasion is pro-social. It involves real evidence, and it always leaves the listener with free choice. Manipulation, on the other hand, is a coercive trap. It relies on deceit, it removes free choice through ultimatums, and it's driven purely by the speaker's self-interest at the direct expense of the other person.
Plus, manipulating people isn't just morally gross, it is honestly a terrible business strategy. As the renowned psychologist Robert Cialdini points out, using misleading influence tactics actively destroys your long-term wealth, your relationships, and your business systems. Because true wealth, that's built on trust. And manipulation is the absolute fastest way to burn that trust to the ground.
Well, we've covered the whole shebang today. The mindsets, the frameworks, the storytelling, and the delivery of elite communicators. But as the Navy SEALs say, you don't rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of your training. Slow progress is invisible until it finally compounds. So the question I want to leave you with today is this. Are you going to start putting in your communication reps right now? Start recording voice notes, practice those frameworks, build up that internal dictionary.
Because when that defining millionaire-making opportunity finally knocks on your door, you want to be completely ready to speak and grow rich.